Welcome to Persons of Interest. I am your host, Derek Dockett. Traditionally, the first week during the month of May is Teacher Appreciation Week. And in this episode of the podcast, I had the opportunity to visit with someone who has spent 30 years as an educator and coach. Not only has he taught the ins and outs of physical education, but he's coached his share of basketball, baseball, and softball games, all with success and preparing students for their next steps in life and, in some cases, careers in professional sports. He was named Holt High School Teacher of the Year the same year that he will retire from education. This is Joel Adam on Persons of Interest. All right, Coach Joel Adam, 30 years at Holt High School. I got to ask to start out, teaching, that's really seriously one of the most unique careers anyone can do. How and why? Did you know you wanted to go into education 30 years ago?
Well, I mean, I guess playing in college was, I always wanted to continue with sports, and I figured if it's not going to be there to play, I wanted to coach, and you had to teach to do that. So I knew being in the classroom wasn't one of my strong suits. So I knew I wanted to do something outside and do PE and physical education. So that's kind of where that came from. But I'm glad I chose it because I've talked to so many people in the last 3 to 4 weeks about retiring or whatever, this and that. And I said, I really didn't work a day. There are long days when you have games and you coach as many years as I did, but it was exactly what I needed to do.
And you said it there. You also coached as well. So I don't even know. I know you coached when I got to the district. You were coaching baseball and softball. You mentioned to me one time in conversation you've also coached basketball as well.
Oh, yeah. That's coached basketball. Different levels. I did middle school basketball when I was really young. I did South Middle. I was at South Middle for 13 years. So I started their basketball program out there in 8th grade. So I did that for 8 or 9 years. And I coached varsity girls in the mid-'90s. I was an assistant coach there. Coached with Don Joff at Holt years ago, girls varsity basketball, kind of coming in and coming out. People just call me and say, hey, Coach, you want to get involved? And then my son was a freshman in high school. Let's see, he's a sophomore now, so in college. So 6 years ago, didn't have a freshman coach. Who do they go? Who's Chuck Arnold called? You want to coach your freshman boys? So I think I taught a lot of – I did 17 years of basketball too.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Which one did you enjoy coaching the most? Because I know you had a great run, baseball and softball. I don't even know all of the background of everything you've accomplished besides just the stuff that I know from recency, but you've got a heck of a sports coaching resume.
Well, I did total it up. I ended up coaching. I was a head coach for 1,001 varsity games as a combined baseball softball coach. So that tells you how many games I ended up doing. Yeah. And actually, my 1,000th game was our district championship at Timberland when we beat Troy. So pretty crazy. But what was my favorite? I mean, grew up playing baseball, played it, coached it. Had my son played for me. Met a lot of great people. Softball the last 20 years has been very cool. Both my daughters played for me. Both played on district championship teams. My daughter that's a senior in college. I've got 2 girls that are seniors, so it's been interesting around here. Senior in college and a senior in high school.
Wow.
She played for a state championship with me in 2014, and I to stand there with your daughter at a state championship game was probably the top thing. Just say you're going to have a kid and you're going to have someone, let's play for the state championship one day. To get to do that, pretty neat.
Yeah. So I was thinking about that. I was going to ask, you told me that you had the chance to be around your kids during your teaching career and coaching. And the photo that I have of you when Claudia hit her home run in that game and just the excitement on both your faces. I got to imagine being able to coach your kids in that situation and teach them and see them on a regular basis. It's got to be pretty awesome as a parent. But you literally saw your kids grow up every day and saw them go through education together and sports together. I mean, can you even put into words what that means?
You know, Claudia's a senior. I remember when, when she was a little kid, she would come to games. Amy would bring the kids. I mean, what else are you going to do when they were little? When they were 2, 4, and 6, what are you going to do? Sit at home or bring them out to watch? And she remembers growing up at Holt and going out, in the woods and playing in the creek when she was a little kid, and she literally grew up there. So, really to have them in class, I've had them all in class. They've all played for me. I hope it was a good experience for them. I mean, it was for me. Not many people can see their kids at work, and then to get to know their friends, and they come to the house and hey, coach, it's been pretty cool. It's not a normal situation, but to coach them and have the fun that we had was pretty neat. I'm going to miss that.
Yeah. So we talked all about this coaching now. I'm a sports fan, and I love the art of the competition, and I'm sure you probably might be the same way, because who doesn't like to win, obviously. And in that time, like I said, you had a great amount of success winning some district championships. You had some great teams. In addition to some really outstanding players, especially on the baseball side, you've had some guys go on to the major league level, and we've seen some of those guys and recently here get some news in Tim Melville. We know Detwiler's story, but I'm curious to get your thoughts when you look back at the time of being able to coach some outstanding players. Those two obviously come to the forefront, but when you sit back and think about the time you've had the chance to coach some outstanding kids that go on to the higher level, that's got to make you feel pretty special too, right?
Yeah. I mean, we'll start, I guess, with Ross. I mean, he came up as a freshman, and we didn't put him on the varsity as a freshman as a pitcher because he was too wild. We brought him up as a hitter.
Really?
I mean, people realize this. He was a heck of a hitter in high school. And even further back than that, his older brother Wes played for me. And when Ross was 9 years old, he was our bat boy. Okay. So that's how long I've known him, and he's 33 years old. So I've known him 24 years. Mom was a teacher at Holt. I don't know if you knew that. Gail was her name. So both Detwiler boys played for me. And then Wes actually went on and played at Collie County Junior College out in Kansas and was the National Player of the Year his sophomore year. Yeah. So, so I've known Ross since he's been a little kid, and to envision him to come up finally one day play for me, to have he was a player of the year in the conference, but to go on most state and do what he did. And following up to his junior year, I remember his mom saying, "Coach, he's doing this and this, and he's going to get drafted, and they're slotting him as the 6th overall pick." I'm like, "What are you talking?" I mean, it was just crazy how he evolved from this high school kid that we knew as a little kid to going to be. And he was on draft day on ESPN. Yeah. To see him sitting there, and both of his brothers were there on draft day with him. And actually I was sitting with his mom and dad at Rookies in Wentzville and some of their friends. So we were sitting there watching the draft live, and one of Ross's dad's best friends had all the hats of all the teams, and every team that would come up, they'd set a different hat on the table. And it was amazing to go through that with them. And I still stay in contact with both those guys, but just talking about Ross, because he was a Wentzville boy. And to see him he was in the independent league earlier last year, and to continue to keep trying to get back to the major leagues, and got picked up by the White Sox. And him and Tim sent me a picture last spring. I don't know if I've ever shared it with you. They were both in the independent league out on the East Coast, and I saw that their teams were playing each other. I said, "Hey, could you two take a picture of each other and send that to me?" So somebody snapped a shot of the two of them playing independent ball on the East Coast, and I have that on my. It's pretty neat picture.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Sure, Coach, we'll send it to you. Well, about a week later, Ross gets picked up by the hi Claudia, by the White Sox, and then Tim was picked up by the Rockies. Not much further after that. So
when those guys are in high school, do you really sit and think about that kind of talent? Like, are you thinking this kid's going to be in the major leagues? Like, that can't be in your mind, right? I mean, I'm sure you're probably living in the moment, but
with Ross, I would hate to say this, we didn't envision that because he was just a tall, skinny kid.
Yeah,
I mean, we didn't know. I mean, we knew he had a live arm. But when Tim came to us, that's a whole different story. I mean, Tim came to us as a freshman. They moved out here from Virginia, and we really had no idea. Mom called my house, and actually my wife, Amy, talked to his mom, Valerie, first, and just said, hey, we're moving to St. Louis. We want to hear about your program. Well, I wasn't home. She goes, some lady called. They're moving into the Wentzville District. Want to hear about your program? I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. So I call, and I talked to Valerie, and she's like, well, he's pretty good. You know, he's a big kid, pitcher. We just want to know about your program. It was weird that she'd asked this question. Have you had any major league scouts at any of your games? I went, well, last year we had 20 at a game to watch Detwiler as a senior. And she's like, oh, that's great. And how many years you've been coaching this and that? Well, little did I know they had called other St. Louis area schools, asking them the same questions. And lo and behold, they picked us where they were going to move to.
Huh.
I was like, oh, wow. Well, fast forward to Tim's freshman year, little did we know he was the Sporting News. He was ranked number 1 in the freshman class, and we didn't know that. And the first time somebody saw him was our cross country coach, and they said he ran cross country and said, hey, some kid was running and said, hey, I bet they found a baseball laying next to the track, and he said, I guarantee I could throw it through the uprights on the other end of the football field in less than 2 throws. And Coach Arnold's like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, I can do that. I guess he winds up the first time. He's on this goal line and throws it through the uprights, and he calls me. He's like, Coach, I got this kid that just threw the ball, from one end of the football field to the other. I'm like, oh, it must be the Melville kid. So first time I saw him was running cross country through the park. I'm like, oh, wow, he is a pretty good sized kid. And he ended up starting for us as a freshman, obviously, and played with a very talented group of guys. They had another kid that pitched professionally. Pontius was a junior on his team as a freshman, and we had some talent that year. But Tim ended up being was a starter for us as a freshman and hit 4-hole as a freshman.
Wow.
And that's hard to do at our school. So, but at that point, we knew Tim he was a 6'5", 210-pound freshman. You say, well, did you envision Ross being a pro guy? Not as much as Tim. Tim was the guy at that young of an age, and everybody we played against went up. That kid's 15 years old, and he just two-hit you as a freshman. So that we kind of knew that, and then as we went on through high school, Derek, his stock, we were hearing from all these scouts, and in his senior year, we were averaging 30 to 40 major league scouts at every start, everywhere we went. And I had not seen anything like that ever. And then towards the end, we started seeing GMs.
Wow.
From, the Cardinals, the Yankees, and they were showing up to Holt High School. Like, wow. So sorry, I kept rambling on that. Tim was definitely more of a projected kid, and it was one of the crazier times. And what was weird is we kind of got used to it with Tim, because everywhere these we go play whoever, and they were like, who are all these guys? I'm like, this is every game that he throws. So we kind of got used to it.
Right.
The other teams are freaked out by it.
Yeah.
Like, he'd go down the bullpen, and he'd have 30 guys following him down to the bullpen. And everybody was videotaping him, and but one of my cool stories. Sorry if I keep chatting.
No, this is great.
I'm standing one day, and I look over. It was towards the end, and this guy had his hand up on the fence, and I noticed a diamond ring. I'm like, holy crap, look at all those diamonds in the ring. It's a World Series champs. I'm like, who is this guy? I said, can I ask you who you are? He goes, I'm Dick Tidrow. I pitched for the New York Yankees in the 70s. I don't know if you know who Dick Tidrow is.
Heard the name.
You need to look him up. With the big handlebar mustache.
Yes.
And he goes, I'm with the San Francisco Giants. I'm here to take a look at your guy. I'm like, I just met Dick Tidrow from the New York Yankees, and he's standing here at Holt High School. That was some of the cool stuff we got to do.
That is wild. I mean, again, there's so many things like that you would never imagine happening, but when you're coaching and all these things come about, I mean. So I was sharing a story with another coach in the district of how you never know, some of the kids when they come through your program and what talent they may or may not have. And then you fall on some years where you don't have talent and you're just trying to teach the game to kids. But then you find a diamond in the rough. You have a gym and you're like, is this really happening? We've got, this happening and, the stars align, let alone for the team winning games. But this kid's future being a thing. I'm curious. So you talked a lot about the pro scouting. When it comes to college recruiting, because you've had several kids, go to play D1, D2, you name it, just continue on playing athletics. What's that process like? Because I know on the football side and the basketball side, a lot of those coaches try to do their best to make sure their kids have an opportunity and they, reach out to coaches. Do you ever find yourself in that same position when it comes to baseball and softball, or did you just let the coaches come to you, or were you hands-on trying to help a kid?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I mean, you got to remember 20 years ago, we didn't have all this video and all these national websites that kids could log into and pay money for. It's weird, but like football, has the huddle that you can log on and see the kids compete. Basketball, same way. Baseball, we still don't use as much video as the football because they play one game a week and they can decipher all the video. Baseball, you play once you start playing, you play every day. We don't really utilize video. I know teams are, but 20 years ago, it was almost by word of mouth. Once we started having those kids, I was getting phone calls from schools going, hey, do you have any more of those kids? Prime example, 2007 baseball team, we played for the state championship. Our starting center fielder is David Turnbull. High ACT kid. He starts looking at schools, blah, blah, blah. Guess where he ends up going? He ends up going to, Dartmouth.
Okay.
Plays out there. Plays at Dartmouth. I don't know why I forgot that one. But he starts in center field. I remember watching him on ESPN. They played Miami one day. Dartmouth called me for the next 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
Do you have any more David Turnbulls? I said, actually, I do. We had a third baseman, and he ended up not going to Dartmouth. His name was Nolan Fisher. I think he had a 33 or 34 ACT and really smart. And he actually flew out there. He goes, Coach, I love it, but I want to be a doctor to go to Dartmouth. Yeah, they're giving me 50%, but the school's $65,000 a year to go there. He's like, I can go to SEMO for free and play down there. And he ended up going to SEMO and playing for free because I have other years of schooling I got to pay for. So I just remember that going, wow, I have Dartmouth calling me all the time, asking me if I have any more kids like David Turnbull.
Yeah.
And then once we started getting, Detwiler, it's like a lot of pro guys would email me just saying, hey, if you guys send us guys either on your high school team that you think or guys in your area that you've seen. And I would just get random emails from the Rockies all the time. And that was kind of my networking. And, once you sent a couple guys out there, they're like, well, they must have an idea what's going on out there. So maybe we should see if they get any more guys like that. And that's how it all started, But now with the summer teams and the select teams, they're putting those kids out there in video, and they spend a lot more time with them now than they ever used to.
Right.
So that's kind of how that started, Derek, is, and I think in our 2005 team, I think I had 4 Division I guys, 3 Division II guys, 2 pro guys. All on one team. Wow. You think, well, we probably should have went to the Final Four, but we lost a kid named Kelly Fick that ended up pitching at Mizzou. Had a great changeup. It's weird how you remember stuff like that, but we tried to squeeze in the first inning because we knew how good this kid was going to be. And the kid pitching for me that day was Ross Detwiler, and little did I know that was his last game he ever pitched for us.
Wow.
I think he struck out 12 or 13 and might have walked 7. That just tells you he had a little bit of wildness to him. But we should have won that game too and just couldn't remember. I mean, we had our center fielder went to Murray State, our first baseman went to Murray State. Our catcher was a defensive end, first team All-Stater. Our right fielder was a second team All-State football player. I mean, we had guys that could play. And I remember walking in the field that day. I keep going on, but I remember these older guys were barbecuing, and they said, "Oh my God, you can hear them. Look how big these guys are." We had big boys, big men, big dudes. I mean, we had a bunch of football guys, baseball guys, but we were massive. And I had coaches that were big too. We're like, who are these guys? Holy smokes. So
nice.
So that's kind of some of the things we did. And you know, we it just kind of evolved from, you have some winning teams and have players that have success. They kind of came to me, but then again, like for softball, you know, over the last few years, a lot of those girls were getting looks through their summertime, because that's when the college coaches can go look.
Exactly.
Because we do play, but when they're playing the spring, they're not going to be out recruiting. They're playing, you know. So with softball, there's a lot more that goes on in the summertime than 10 years ago, even 5 years ago.
Yeah. So I'm going to jump back to your classroom now, because I have a story I want to share with you. Yeah. So when I was a freshman in high school, my physical science teacher was also the varsity wrestling coach. And I will never forget this, because he says to me, "You should go out for wrestling. You ever wrestled before?" And I'm like, "I've never wrestled, never seen wrestling in my life. The only wrestling I knew was WWF at the time. I had no clue." And the entire first semester, before wrestling practice and tryouts started, he was on me. He was, "You want to go out for tryouts?" I'm like, "No, I'm not. I don't know anything about wrestling." And I don't know what it was. And I'll never get this, because he was so disappointed in me because I did not try out for wrestling. He's like, you should do it. You should do it. And to this day, I don't know why, but I just know I had no interest in it. When you, as a teacher and also a coach, but when you've got kids in class and you're like, "Hey, you play any sports? Do you ever do that?" And you ever find a diamond in the rough that way, that you like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Because I get it. Like, to me, I look back on it now, I wish I was more involved in high school, because when I got to college, I realized how much extracurriculars really did help make me a well-rounded person. And I wish I was more involved in high school, because I realized that when I got to college, I was taken in clubs and activities and intramural sports. I didn't play in college, but intramurals was my thing. Sure. And I wish I did that in high school. Maybe wrestling would have been an outlet for me had I done it.
Right. Me too.
But you ever like have a kid like that you see and them do a similar story to that?
I mean, I can't really think of any too specific. I'm trying to think. You know, we had camps. You know, I used to run a camp at Lake St. Louis. We ran it for 20 years. So we thought a lot of our success too was when we have these kids as little kids, and then one day they're going to be with us.
Right. So
we would have them in second and third grade. By the time they would get to be, you know, seventh, eighth graders, we're kind of like, wow, this kid can play or whatever. And then by the time they get to the high school level, we knew them 7, 8 years. And I guess we kind of did our own recruiting back then through those days. Because, I mean, at one point, our baseball camp at Lake St. Louis was one of the largest ones in St. Louis. I know the Post-Dispatch came out and took pictures one day, and I was like, wow, I guess this must be a pretty big deal for the Post-Dispatch. That was a slow day in sports. I don't know. But I think one year we had 178 kids at camp.
Wow.
You know, it's all baseball. So I think we kind of that's just when it was us and Timberland and Frank Masters over at Timberland. He recruited his side, I recruited my side, and it seemed like, you know, I guess that kind of brought numbers to the table for us. I don't really recall anything. I know I had a pitcher one time, big lefty, probably about he'd be about a 2001 grad, played golf his freshman year, and big, tall. He just looked like a pitcher. You know how you look at certain people and they look like athletes. He just looked like a pitcher. And I said, "Chris, man, what do you, no offense, you play golf, but we could really use you on the baseball team." He has a pitching course. I think he ended up pitching at Indiana State. And ended up being pretty good. He was one of the kids that I remember recruiting, but you know, it's not the same as wrestling. I mean, there are kids that grew up wrestling, but I know, like, even Andrew Hammond at Holt is constantly recruiting kids.
Yeah.
And he posts stuff about the linemen that are getting drafted in the NFL draft. What they say, 4 of the top 6 linemen were all wrestlers in high school. So not that I'm saying we don't have to recruit, but St. Louis is a baseball town anyway. I mean, it seemed like they just came to us, and we really didn't have to recruit as much as other sports. Hi, Meredith. So.
I have that's so awesome. When I don't want to like get told the teary-eyed stuff, but I gotta ask, when it's no one probably you probably didn't foresee the last year with you retiring this year ending this way, but when you look back on it at your time at Holt High School, like how can you sum up what your career in education's been and your time coaching has been like?
They had the virtual recognition last night for 20 and 30-year employees, and it's weird to see your name on a piece of paper that says 30-year employee. It's like, I started coaching so many years ago, and I don't even know if I told you this, but my first job was working as a football coach with Coach Swafford, who's the stadium's named after at Timberland.
Yeah, you did tell me that.
So, and I can think back to that like it wasn't that long ago, and it just shows you how quickly things go. And I know Claudia's sitting over here, and she had taken my team sports class 8th hour, so she could be my last class ever.
That's awesome. As
time rolls out, and I'm kind of going to miss out on that, because she ended up recruiting some of her buddies to be in there with her. I think she had, 4 or 5 softball, basketball girls that were going to join her. So they all ended up taking my class so they could all be in my last class.
Yeah.
So we won't get to do that, but, there's it is what it is. It's not like everybody else is in the same boat. So what are we going to do? It's, she didn't get to have prom, and, graduation's still going to happen. My oldest one's sitting over there. She was in the middle of her softball season, senior year, and had that canceled. And I know that was hard on her, and with graduation, and still up in the air whether they're going to have them graduate. So for me, to look how quickly 30 years has gone, it's just wild to think that it's going to be over here in a couple weeks, and kind of look back on, wow, it was time consuming but very quick.
So I know you're probably a very proud father, and I know one of the reasons you stepped away from baseball a couple years ago was so you can see your daughter play, because softball in the college obviously happens in the spring, and softball in high school happens in the fall. But I saw that Claudia's made a choice on where she's going to go after Holt as well.
Yeah, it took her a few days. We gave her a hard time about it all the time. She finally chose Illinois College. I know she had thought long and hard about it. We tried not to influence her about it, Derek. Like you said, you've changed your majors and changed your mind, and we didn't want to influence her one way or the other. Going, well, I wish I would have gone with my heart. And Amy and I tried to stay out of it, Derek. Yeah. And I know she had some offers, and basketball kind of came in at the end here for her. And actually, we drove out to Eventual a few weeks ago, Derek, and toured the campus ourselves, because you couldn't go in anything. Right. We didn't meet a person. We didn't see a person. That was really odd, by the way. Beautiful school, but it was just kind of
nobody there.
Nobody there.
Yeah.
We couldn't go in the gym. And I think it was hard for her to envision herself going, I'm going to be at this school for the next 4 years. And I didn't even get a walk in one building. Yeah. Where Illinois College, she visited, it was right after softball season was over. And we were able to go on things and go on their field. And their coach actually came to a few basketball games too, which I think that helped. But I think it's a relief for her to get that done with, and I'm excited she's playing softball. I did a bit either way though. I told her, you can play softball, you can play basketball. Jewel, she was even looking at going to the University of Central Missouri and just going to school.
Okay.
I said, whatever your choice is, that's going to be your choice.
Yeah.
And we really tried to stay out of it, even though I think deep down, I'm from Illinois. I was kind of rooting for softball, but it worked out okay. She's just laughing.
And that was going to be my question, because as the dad that was also the coach, this gives you an opportunity there to go. Yeah. Obviously, now you'll be able to watch her play. How are you as the dad watching the kid play? Are you the coach in the stands, or you just stand back and take it all in?
They already know the answer. I stand usually as far away from everybody as possible because I have a lot of opinions.
I figured.
I do. Like the last game I ever watched Meredith, they were playing at St. Mary's in Leavenworth, Kansas, and there was a road that went around the field. So I could have a lot of opinions about things. I walk the road because I don't want to say nothing to nobody. I don't want to tip anybody off. I have a lot of opinions, and I coach I'm going to come at you. We're going to run. We're going to make things happen. And they were a little more station to station, a lot more station to station. I'm not that way. I see avenues. Let's go. I'm always clocking things. Even when I'm at a game, the catcher's arm. What's her arm look like? And I walk by myself, stay to myself. I hardly talk to her or anyone because I'm better off not saying that they're all laughing. But I don't like to sit next to anybody either. Like when they're at home in Central Methodist, I would sit out in the center field stands and try not to talk to anyone.
Yeah.
So,
and we all.
Yeah, what's that?
We all have our quirks. I figured, because I've heard about it, and it's funny because now that I go from the college world to now being at more high school events and sports, I always, when I worked at the Missouri Valley Conference, I always had a different look at fans because I was on the inside. I knew what was going on. I knew how schedules were made and all that stuff. And I was always like, kind of, hey, take a step back. And now I look at that at the high school level, and the parents are a little bit more vocal. And I always wonder, like, is that really helping? And you hear about the stories about how we have, we don't have enough officials for games and things like that. And that's one of the reasons why. Yeah. So I was curious of how a coach that's also a parent takes that in. So I know we all have it handle it in different ways.
I like to sit back and not say. With basketball season, I try not to cheer one way or the other. I try not to say a word to a referee. I just try to sit and watch and I try to sit there and stare straight ahead, no matter if she made a good play, a bad play. I try not to show any emotion because I have a feeling a lot of people are looking at me. Yeah. How are we going to take that three that she just airballed? Oh, well, shoot again. Try not to show any emotion, and that's kind of the way I coach unless something pretty cool happened. But you get to move on to the next play, and that's what coaching teaches you is, or the next season or whatever. You're going to make a mistake. You're going to make an out. Let's move on. You're going to come up again with runners at second, third, or in basketball, you can't get too excited high or low because then you got to go down and play defense on the other end. So I think my kids kind of played that way too. Is you just got to go play, and try not to get too ate up about it one way or the other. Don't pat yourself on the back too much because we're going to need you to go catch a fly ball in the gap or whatever. Yeah.
So I imagine the next play for Coach Joel Adams got to be obviously take a little break. You're stepping away. You got some travel planned. What's on the agenda now when August comes up and you're not in the classroom? You got to be able to sort of take a step back and take care of yourself, I imagine, right?
Well, this little hiatus from teaching, staying home all the time, I've definitely told myself I'm not ready to stay at home. Yeah. I like to stay busy. Just ask them. We do have a family trip planned. You got to realize having three kids as close in age as they are, we've played one or two games in the last 10 to 12 summers. We would play in the summertime in the upwards of a couple hundred games in the summer. Yeah. Yeah. When all three were playing at the height of their softball, baseball times. We have scheduled a trip in August. We scheduled it before all this went down. We've not really taken many family vacations. It's always been ball related. Yeah. We are going to go to Mexico for all five of us. But we're wondering if we're going to get a go at this point. So we have to push it back to Christmas time. But we've we planned that out. Amy kept asking, where are we going to go? What are we going to do? I said, you plan it. I don't care. So we're hoping to do that before colleges start back up. And I know Meredith's searching for a teaching job right now. So if you know anything, let me know, Derek. I think she's applied to 19 school districts.
Wow.
She's an elementary school teacher, and so she's looking. So we're looking to do that as a family, just to say we've done something other than play ball our whole lives. But the amount of people that we've met through ball and the places that we've been and seen and is unreal. And that's, to me, that's your family. Outside of your family, your ball family, and your the teams and the travel and getting up early, having to be in the ballpark at 7 a.m. on a Sunday. We've been there and done it a million times, and it's not easy. Not from the parent side too. Right. To have to get up and do that. Commitment. So, but as far as work, I know hoping to work for East Bay. Doing that, but I know I've talked to them recently. With all the shutdowns, they haven't been working much either.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And with school not being in session, it's kind of pushing me back a little bit, but hoping that works out, going to the schools. So you might still see me around as far as going to the local high schools, working with the coaches, selling equipment. I think that'd be something where it kind of keeps me in the game. Yeah. Still gets going into the schools, helping the younger coaches out as far as what they may need and probably don't need. I had people that helped me along the way, and I'd like to give back to them a little bit. I know Frank Gentile's talked to me. I know you know Frank. Yep. He's like, Joel, you need to be a referee or umping. I'm like, I figured out, I was a head coach for over 1,000 games. I was an assistant coach for another 1,000. So I've been involved in over 2,000 games as a coach. Going to a game, I like to just go sit and watch. Yeah. Not have to be out there. Plus, I'd probably have a lot of people screaming and yelling at me too. I was going to say. I don't know if I'd handle that real well. I'm pretty much this way, but other than that, Derek, I don't know. I'm actually just kind of thinking I want to work part-time somewhere this summer just to kind of pass the time. Lowe's was hiring the other day. I might go sell paint or something. I don't know. Don't laugh. I'm not kidding. I like to stay busy.
It's just weird because it'll be hard to imagine. I've only been in the district for just 2.5 years. So it's going to be already weird to not see you at baseball or softball at Holt, but I can't imagine you at Lowe's walking down the aisle and me looking for paint and you helping me.
I might not be much help. Go with the navy blue. Navy's been a good color, I don't know. I want to do something. I'm reaching out to some different people. Yeah. One of my catchers works for Enterprise, and he goes, Coach, we got these old guys. They'll take this car from here, and they'll drive it over to here. They'll drop it off. Then they'll drive a car back over to here. I'm thinking, well, I could do that.
Well, whatever it is you end up doing, I'm sure you'll be fantastic at it. And I want to certainly wish you all the best as you step away from Holt. And congratulations on a fantastic career in the classroom, on the field. And I know once people hear this, they will probably reach out and you'll get more tweets. And we'll definitely have to keep in touch because, like I said, you're one of the first when I got to the district that welcomed me with open arms and helped make the marketing thing go in the right direction. So I'm greatly appreciative for those folks like yourself that sort of made my life a little bit easier too.
Yeah, well, you've been a great addition to the Wentzville district. I know I follow everything that you do, and the things you do on Peak being the all-decade, to do that little graph on her, and like I said, my brother's was a sports writer for 34 years, so I know that business can be interesting. Yeah. And you've been a great addition. We've needed someone like you for a long time to market these kids and push the positive stuff out there, which you do a really nice job of. But it's going to be different turning the page. I can tell you that much.